Russia depends on their hard currency mainly on natural gas and primarily oil exports. People don't understand maybe that we import 585,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia. And Biden at this point has not shut that down.
It's my privilege to welcome back to the Daily Signal podcast, Gregory Wrightstone. He leads Co2 Coalition as the executive director. Thank you so much for being back with us.
Oh, good to be back with you. It's always, usually when on there's something bad going on. So
well,
where do we want to start?
Unfortunately, that's the case today. So right now we have a situation unraveling. Russia has launched a full-on invasion of Ukraine. And amidst this conversation is a dialogue about pipelines. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline, Germany has halted certification of that pipeline. And now there's a conversation about coming back up about the Keystone Pipeline in America that Biden stopped construction of. And people are saying, well, wait a second, shouldn't that construction have continued so that we can have access to that oil that now it feels like we're being cut off with out in Russia? So give us the rundown. What is happening here?
I think people, you need to understand first that Russia depends on their hard currency mainly on natural gas and primarily oil exports. People don't understand maybe that we import 585,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia. And Biden at this point has not shut that down. Now, Putin has been building up this hard currency stockpile and been banking it just in preparation for this. They have a lot of hard currency that they put over and have banked this from their oil and gas sales. But whenever Biden, his first day in office, he shut down the Keystone XL Pipeline that would have imported 830,000 barrels of oil a day into the United States.
Why did he do that? Why did he shut it down?
I have no idea. It boggles. It does not make any sense. It made us more dependent on people like the Russians and the Saudis, less dependent on our own North American produced oil. XL would have brought Canadian tar sands oil into the United States. He bowed to the woke left and the extreme environmentalists. But the XL was just one part of the many dominoes that fell with the Biden administration. On that same day, he banned leasing of federal properties. That's mainly Gulf Coast, offshore Gulf Coast. He also banned drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska, thought to be one of the, or probably the largest undeveloped oil accumulation in North America. And he continues it last week with banning, with FERC stopping permitting new pipelines, which are vital. If you can't move the product to market, which is natural gas, through pipelines, you might as well not drill it. And in addition to that, he shut down development of the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska. So and this is not, don't confuse that with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in Louisiana, which is basically underground caverns full of oil waiting. The Alaska is one that needs to be developed and produced. And the importance of that too is Prudhoe Bay oil production has been in decline, and the pipeline that carries that oil south to the United States is nearing its economic limit. You have to have enough oil going through to make it worthwhile to produce that. It's nearing that limit. It was thought with both of those two new Alaska reserves being developed, it would have extended that pipeline's life for many decades. Now, if it's abandoned, we'll be stranding all that oil probably forever, never to be produced or used by American consumers.
So you're a geologist, and you work in the field of doing research and writing on topics like climate change, but you say that having pipelines like the Keystone Pipeline, that you don't see that as a problem. Why?
Well, no, pipelines are the safest method of transportation. How are we going to get that oil from the oil from the tar sands? Make no mistake, it's going to be produced and it's going to be moved. The safest way is moving it by pipelines, and the least expensive. Think about it, now you're going to have hundreds of thousands of tanker cars full of volatile oil coming down from Canada in wintertime. The accidents do occur. Not so much with pipelines. Again, it's the safest and the most cost-effective method of transporting both oil and the only way to transport natural gas.
Yeah. Well, and of course, right now, everyone is feeling that pressure at the gas pump. We're seeing those gas prices go up. And people are talking about, okay, now that this Nord Stream 2 pipeline has been cut off, where do we stand?
Well, that particular pipeline won't affect us as much. It was gas that was going to be coming to Germany. Germany has rolled the dice and said we're not going to produce electricity by coal-fired electricity or nuclear, and they're systematically shutting down all of their nuclear and coal-fired plants. And they're going to have to rely on wind and solar and natural gas. And now with this natural gas being curtailed, it puts them in a very, very difficult position. Their costs of that have gone up. If you just go to across the border to France, France has embraced an all-nuclear scenario. They're producing more than 70% of their electricity from nuclear, and they continue building more and more and more. Something we should consider here in the United States. Small modular reactors are being constructed here. We could do more of those. But again, at the CO2 Coalition, we believe that modest warming we've seen combined with increasing CO2 is leading to an Earth's ecosystems that are thriving and prospering, and humanity's benefiting from this combination of modest warming and increasing CO2. It's a great story that just is not being told.
Why do you think it's not being told? Why do we just get this really one narrative, one environmental side of the debate?
I can't see inside men's and women's souls for their motivation. I don't. But I know that there's extreme misinformation being put out by the UN. Just recently, the World Meteorological Organization, their recent report a couple of weeks ago on natural severe weather events, they claimed a 5-fold increase when there's actually been a decline, a significant decline over the last 20 years on natural disasters. Things like that. They need to promote this agenda of catastrophic man-made warming, and why they're doing it, I don't know. I'm a scientist. I can tell you, okay, this is what they're saying, and this is what the facts are. And it's up to you and others to discern what their motivations might be. But your listeners and viewers are being lied to about this notion of catastrophic warming. We just don't, by almost every metric, our ecosystems and humanity are benefiting and thriving.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of getting information out there, getting your work out there, you all recently tried to launch an Instagram account. You have a presence on Facebook, and when you launched that account, you ran into some issues.
Right, we tried to log on for the first time. We thought we'd been approved, and the notice was basically we'd been banned before we could make our first post. They said that we had violated the terms and conditions of Instagram, but we hadn't posted anything yet. So I guess our reputation precedes us. We provide facts, science, and data about what's really happening in our climate, in the oceans, in our atmosphere. And in fact, I was banned earlier in 2021 from LinkedIn, and my very last post on LinkedIn that I made was, I think I'm about to be banned and deplatformed. They removed that post, labeled it as false and misleading, and then banned and deplatformed me. So they need to silence people like me and the brave scientists at the CO2 Coalition. They need to silence us, because once this message gets out and the science gets out, it's game over for this false narrative.
And Instagram didn't give you any explanation?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Not at all.
Well, we can't find your work on Instagram, but where can we find it?
We can go to co2coalition.org. Wonderful website. You can take a climate quiz. You can click on climate facts. We have many of our talented members that write blogs that are fascinating. We've got a research associate, Vijay Jayaraj, that talks about energy poverty in the developing world, in India, sub-Saharan Africa, and he lives it with being out of electricity 4 and 5 hours during 100-degree plus weather. And he understands, and his neighbors understand, what energy poverty means and how important it is to have reliable, abundant, affordable energy.
Yeah, excellent. Gregory Wrightstone, the Executive Director of CO2 Coalition, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.